let me advise this House that the supplementary appropriation of $3,852,055,829 affects 22 heads of expenditure and comprises recurrent expenditure of $3,496,694,796 and development program expenditure of $355,361,033. Further, the variation of appropriation, which complements this supplementation, affects only recurrent expenditure and involves an increase to one head of expenditure and a decrease to one head of expenditure, namely an increase of $100 million for the Ministry of Works and Transport and a decrease of $100 million for the Ministry of Rural Development and Local Government. Members are advised that the source of funds for the supplementary appropriation will be met from the consolidated fund as well as from loan financing if required. Quite anxious when the overdraft hit 90% and 95% and sometimes 99% and so on, meaning that there was only money to run the country for a couple of days. Today, the overdraft is at 39%. So we have available to us another $5 to $6 billion in the overdraft. So we may not need to engage in loan financing. And let me also debunk statements made by the opposition that it is the government's intention to withdraw money from the Heritage and Stabilization Fund. Nothing could be further from the truth. The projected revenue now for the year is expected to be somewhere in the region of $1 billion less than original estimates. And expenditure, of course, because we are supplementing the appropriation, will be more. When I look at the weighted average local crude price for the half year, the average that we have is $81.27, which is just about $11 less than our budget projection. And that has affected the revenue to some extent. The monthly weighted average for the first half of the fiscal year for gas, net back price, $6.98. So the oil is lower, the gas is higher. The revenue projected based on the budget estimates was $28.48 billion. The actual revenue received for the period October 22 to March 23 was $27.4 billion, just $1 billion less. Experienced an increase in taxes on incomes and profits from other companies. The Inland Revenue Department categorizes companies into two categories: oil and gas and other companies. But other companies would include all of the service sector, financial sector, manufacturing sector, etc., would also include the petrochemical sector. And taxes on incomes and profits has exceeded expectations by $790 million. And that is why, when you look at the overall outturn, even though we've experienced a lower VAT collection because it's a net figure, even though we've experienced lower royalty collections, we have a considerable increase in taxes on incomes and profits. Much of the supplementation is designed to clear off a backlog of bills that have accumulated, arrears, money owed to suppliers and contractors over the last 7 years. And we thought it was appropriate to do that at this time because cash is the lifeblood of industry.
So that was the Minister of Finance yesterday. presenting the report, which will be continued to be debated, or was continued to be debated further on. Some of the things he basically said was, look, we have bills outstanding in 7 years, we're going to increase the expenditure. I'm not sure how the deficit is only growing from around, I think, 4 billion plus to 6 billion plus, when revenue is down and expenditure is up by 3 billion, revenue is down by 1 billion. So I would expect a greater deficit, but I don't know exactly how those maths, and maybe it's a technical thing. Keaton?
Where do I begin? The Minister of Finance is, again, downplaying everything. You projected oil at $92 per barrel when you read your budget statement last year. And now you're saying that it's been an average of $81, which is ridiculous that you're just downplaying it, that we're not too concerned about it.
The one saving grace is oil might be so small now that it might not be that big of a deal, ironically speaking.
Though you may suggest that, also understand that still we base our budget off of an average oil price. So it's overestimated. Though he was quick to champion that, gas is actually higher than we average. So clearly, once more, the Minister of Finance has got his averaging wrong. But with revenue, actually, for the first 6 months of the fiscal year, projected to be 1 billion less than budgeted, it will most likely see that at the end of the fiscal year, revenue is going to, the depletion in projected revenue is going to be far greater than 1 billion.
Well, right. I think he already admitted another billion shortfall is possible on
I think it might be more than that.
Well, actually. Okay.
If current trends continue, because, just to add context, inflation in the United States has decreased. It's the 10th month that prices have dropped, right? But that does not necessarily mean anything for TNT, right? Therefore, if I were to say that in the next 6 months, based off of current trends and projections of the outside economy versus what's happening here, it's going to be far greater than just 1 billion. So I think government expenditure needs to focus more so on revenue generating entities and investments, and I'm not seeing that. I'm not seeing that at all. I mean, the VAT refunds and the bonds for VAT refunds, that sounds all well and good, but it's something that actually needs to be implemented. We can't just stand up in Parliament and say it, okay? And we can't just keep standing up in Parliament and saying, well, the manufacturing sector is doing good. That's mostly because of private sector investment.
The thing is, I'm not too sure if it's really the manufacturing sector of the private that he's talking about for the non-petrochemical part of that sector. That's the funny thing. So when he speaks, he separates it from energy, although to some extent those revenues are tied to the price of natural gas and the availability of natural gas.
Furthermore, no major announcements on any new initiatives. Just more expenditure.
With regards to what sort of initiatives you're looking
I'm talking about revenue generating initiatives.
Okay,
there's just no further notes. In other words, right, we're halfway through the fiscal year, and we have no idea, so we know one step closer to actually generating further revenue, or to say this is where we're investing in to gain more income. We're actually just coming and reporting to you, listen, you know what, we're going to have more expenditure and less income. That's it. You can fancy it as much as you want. You can try and downplay it as much as you want. That is just it.
I think the key point, and I'm not too sure, I don't think he spoke to this yesterday with regards to foreign exchange, and here's why. He just said it, cash is the lifeblood of industry. Cool. So you're putting in a lot of cash. You're giving a lot of contractors and suppliers cash that's owed to them over the last 7 years. You're giving VAT refunds. So that's going to inject a lot more cash into the system. Your budget, you have a deficit. You're not reducing your budget. So it doesn't matter with regards to revenue. Your expenditure is more or less going to, grow, right? Not just remain the same, but grow with this extra allocation, the supplemental going out there. if we don't have the foreign exchange to keep up with demands, then our inflation, that's where our inflation might still continue to rise. Because we're putting more cash in, so more people will want to spend that cash, and we import everything that we consume for all intents and purposes, or too much of it. So what is the plan now when those things come back in full force? Because COVID was perhaps potentially stunting some of that demand for foreign exchange.
As we have to go for news on the hour, just subtly I'll add into that. Here in TNT, no matter what, you never see prices going down. So even if things are getting better externally, I don't know what it is, why it is, it's never reflected internally. Listen, you know what? Guess what? Prices are going to go down. We had to raise these prices due to shocks across the world. No, now that we're seeing things getting better, prices have to go down. That never happens.
Nope.
So-
No, but that's also with regards to society and private business.
Well,
But we accept the prices.
profit motive.
We still accept.
In some instances, we don't have a choice.
Yeah.